Give us free. Give us free.
Your Honor, please instruct the defendant that he cannot disrupt these proceedings with such outbursts.
Give us free. Give us free.
If we are to have any semblance of order in this country,
Give us free.
Peace, unity, and welcome my conscious and unconscious family and friends. This is the all-new BlackVillage Community Podcast, and I am truly your host of the show, JC, a.k.a. Afro Black, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut. Without any fear, as I use my mic as a spear to chucker you with liberated truth. I am your host and your native soldier in the struggle. My purpose and mission for this show is first to enlighten, inform, and engage. And I want to engage with all who claim to know the truth. All truth seekers and my native family, I welcome you. This show is dedicated to all our indigenous native ancestors and to all those who've carried the mantle of truth, and to every person with the ability to throw off the chains of comfortable habit and unwarranted assumption and move in a new, liberated direction that is guided by truth and observational evidence, no matter where that direction may lead you. My main objective and purpose here is freedom, mind, soul, and spirit. That being said, welcome to the BlackVillage Community Podcast, and much love from our great universal goddess and mother of all living here and above.
DC in the house.
Should other black men help that particular person who was attacked?
That there will come a time when black people wake up and become intellectually independent enough to think for themselves as other humans are intellectually independent enough to think for themselves. Then the black man will think like a black man, and he will feel for other black people. And this new thinking and feeling will cause black people to stick together. And then at that point, you'll have a situation where when you attack one black man, you are attacking all black men. And this type of black thinking will cause all black people to stick together. Will bring an end to the brutality inflicted upon black people by white people. And it is the only thing that will bring an end to it. No federal court, state court, or city court will bring an end to it. It's something that the black man has to bring an end to himself. Has to bring an end to himself.
Last words on my lips, I am a revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on
We must
saying
defend
that.
ourselves, as Malcolm X said, by any means necessary.
Bloods and the Crips, they said that we're not going to deal with that like that. You hit me, I'm hitting you back. You shoot me, I'm shooting you back. So they wasn't going for it no more.
What you see in terms of adolescents out of school is the frustration in trying to plug
School
into
and
what
youth aid budgets continue to shrink, and California falls from 9th to 33rd
Everybody
place.
that go to the school almost is engaged.
Children are turning away from their parents and they're getting involved with the
Every
gang.
year you get more blood, every year you get more Crips, you lose more Crips, you lose more blood. It's a cycle that's going on.
New Jersey devil.
Yeah, motherfuckers. It's the motherfucking game. I got 100 guns and 100 clips, nigga. I'm in New York, with 100 bloods and 100 Crips. Whenever I'm in New York, I got 100 guns and 100 clips, nigga. I'm in New York, New York. Ride with 100 bloods and 100 crips whenever I'm in New York, New York. Everybody wanna know why he got beat, cause in my dreams I talk to Pac and B.I.G. Got on the plane hoping at the NYC. It's me behind these bars like Chi Ali. Niggas want me to D.I.E. Been there, done that. Woke up from a coma on 3 IVs. Eyes on the throne with somebody in my seat. Fiddling with rap like Marie Ben-Ari. I scoop up Swizz, drive through the Bronx and get Jade on the phone. My next stop is Yonkers. After that is Harlem. Why? Cause I'm a certified gangster and Jim Jones throwing the blood party. Red bandanas from 93rd to 115th and Lenox. It's the sequel to Menace. And oh Lord, he then went old dog. Made 50s beef his and knocked them both off. I got 100 guns and 100 clips, nigga. I'm in New York, New York. With 100 bloods and 100 crips whenever I'm in New York, New York. I got 100 guns and 100 clips, nigga. I'm in New York, New York. Ride with 100 bloods and 100 crips whenever I'm in New York, New York.
Freedom, 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 freedom. This is how we ride and roll. Soldier for life for sure.
Hey, this is JT, a.k.a. Afro Black, and I am here with ya for another Indigenous Sunday. Hell yeah. To share, to enlighten, to inform the Indigenous and those who are not Indigenous community. You feel me? About Indigenous truth. You feel me? This is JC, a.k.a. Afro Black, and I am here with ya on another Indigenous Delicious Sunday to share nothing but the raw and uncut. That's what I do, and that's why I'm here to do. You feel me? And I'm also live on YouTube. You can check me out. I'm right here on YouTube right now doing my podcast live on Spreaker and YouTube. You feel me? Sharing nothing but the raw and uncut, so you can enjoy, you can share, you can even ask a question. You feel me? You can just listen in, or you can just watch a Negro drop the nothing but the raw and uncut. Yeah, you heard me. I said Indigenous. Yes, Indigenous Negro. You feel me? Now you might say, well, Negro means slave. You feel me? Yeah, it does. I'm still living in a system, but I'm conscious of what's going on. You feel me? I'm still enslaved to this system, but I'm not enslaved to the indoctrination of the simulation of the system. You feel me? And so I'm here to share nothing but the raw and uncut with my Indigenous community. And on this delicious Indigenous September 9th Sunday. So let me bring and kick in some Indigenous kickback music to vibrate to. You feel me? Let me drop some of that right there, and then there you go, right there. There's some Tupac in the backdrop, you feel me? And so we here today, and I'm doing a conclusion of last week's podcast. Today's podcast subject is a part 2 of last week's podcast, which is the urban street gangster and the tribal warrior of yesterday, part 2. Again, people, today's podcast topic is a part 2 of last week's podcast, which is the urban street gangster and the tribal warrior of yesterday, part 2. If you caught me last week, then you know what I'm talking about this week. You feel me? And so I'm talking about the connection. I'm talking about something that a lot of other people are not talking about. And what is that? That today's urban street gangster, today's urban concrete jungle thug, today's young warrior, today who is out living a life of criminal activity, who is living a life of I don't give a fuck, who is living a life of getting my grind on, doing what I can for myself to make it from day to day. These young brothers are leaderless warriors. You feel me? They're leaderless warriors. Warriors of who? What type of warriors? The warriors I'm talking about the ones they call the black and brown brothers. You feel me? Those who don't know who they are. Those who are living a life of trying to get by from day to day, but don't realize what they're doing is they live in their life every day one step backwards because they're not moving forward because they don't know who they are. You feel me? And so I'm here to tell the urban street gangster, I'm here to tell the urban street warrior who she and he is. That if you are considered a African American, if you fall under the category of black man, if you fall under the category of a brown man, if you fall under the category of what they call a Latino brother, you are an indigenous warrior, and you should be an indigenous warrior protecting your community. You should be an indigenous warrior raising the conscience of the next young brother. But we're living in a community, and we're living in a time now where people find it okay. They find it the norm to live a cultureless life, because that's what the system is perpetuating and promoting and propagating. To live a cultureless life, to have your mind assimilated to the mindset of the system. You feel me? And so I'm here to tell you that that's a lie. I'm here to tell you that that's not the way that those who don't know who they are should be living. Find out who you are. Know who you are. I'm not talking about those who know who they are. I'm not talking about those who don't give a damn about who they are. I'm talking about the truth seeker. I'm talking about the young brother and young sister who is uncomfortable, unhappy with who they are, not happy in the church, not happy at home, not happy at work, because they feel that something is missing. They know that something is missing. Kind of like the movie The Matrix, when Neo wanted to know what the Matrix really was. When something is missing in your life, you want to feel that space and you want to know what is missing. And I'm trying to tell my so-called African Americans, my so-called Black Americans, my so-called brothers and sisters of America, that they are indigenous to America, that they are not African American, they are not Black American. Our young warriors need to comprehend that they are warriors, and that the warrior spirit that is speaking out and crying out within them is the warrior of the past. Is the tribal warrior of the past. And when you look at these young brothers, when you look at the Crips, and when you look at the Bloods, when you look at the Vice Lords, when you look at the Latin Kings, when you look at the Vadio Diamonds, when you look at the MF-13s, when you look at these young brothers, there's too many characteristics that connect them to the indigenous warrior. You feel me? And I got some of that information right here I want to share with my indigenous community to prove and to validate what I'm talking about, people. To prove and validate that the indigenous concrete gangster today is an image, is a mirror image of the indigenous warrior of the past. The only difference between today's warrior and the warrior of the past is because the so-called Black community is cultureless. It's caused these gangs to basically work against the community, to work against themselves, to basically fold in on itself, because they have no leaders, because they have no culture. They've made the gang their culture. But how can a gang have culture if those within the gang don't exhibit, because they don't know what that culture is? So I'm here to tell young brothers and sisters, I'm here to tell the Crip, to represent what the anagram means, Community Revolutionary Inter-Service Party, The Bloods need to represent what the blood in the title means. It was originally a title for a war tribe that was a Confederate tribe from the Blackfoot Indians, the Bloods. I'm telling these young warriors, the Vice Lords, all of them need to wake up and realize that you are indigenous warriors, that you should be protecting the community, protecting the children, protecting the women. From who? From the white devils. Raw and uncut. You heard me. What white devils? There's a whole lot of white devils out there. We know who the white devils are, and the white devil know who the white devil is. You feel me? That's what the Black Panther Party originally set out to do. That was UP Newton's original game plan. Geronimo Pratt, Eldridge Cleaver's original game plan. The original founders of the Black Panther Party set out what? To not only protect the community, but to educate the community. To make sure that the young gangs did not sell drugs to children and to pregnant women. To make sure that the children had breakfast in the morning, to make sure they had medical coverage, that little children, at one time when there was no Medi-Cal. Crack me up how when young brothers do things for the community, then the white devil want to pick it up and act like he originated. The breakfast school program that goes on in many schools across this country today did not start out, and was not founded by white devils. At one time, the white devil didn't give a damn about breakfast in school. You know why? Because white people provided breakfast for their own children. Huh? They knew that the so-called black and brown people were not able to provide breakfast for their children. They were struggling back in the 1950s, 1930s, 1960s. Huh? Just like today, just like it was yesterday, the white devil controls the resources, making sure his people, the majority of his people, got the finances, got breakfast, got clothes, got housing, got the things that they needed, the necessities that they need. But they made sure that black and brown people, the majority of the black and brown people, were not able to provide for their families breakfast and clothes and things that they needed. It's no different than it was yesterday than it is today. The only difference is today you have a little bit more so-called black and brown people with a little bit more income. That's called trickle-down economics, people, because the mass majority of the black and brown community are still living impoverished. And when it comes to the white community, there's only a fringe part, a very small minority of white people who are living impoverished. The majority of white people are living between middle class and upper class. And it's exactly the reverse when it comes to black and brown people. So the warrior, the young warrior, the gangster that turned into now the modern term of the young warrior today is the gangster. The modern term of a young warrior today is the street gangster. But he's leaderless. He and she has no true guidance. Why? Why are they leaderless? Why they have no guidance? Because of no culture. Cultureless. Look at the majority of so-called black people today. And then those so-called black people who are living on reservations, those who do have records to prove that they are indigenous, they act like they're not a part of their people who are living in the urban jungles, who are living in the concrete jungles, who are living in the cities. But I want you to know, people, that due to the fact that those Native Americans, those brothers and sisters who are living on reservations, they are no different than us because they are us. As a result of that, now gangs are rising on reservations. There are more and more youth gangs that are popping up, that are growing on reservations. And I got the information to prove that as well. So let me get into this, because I get to preaching all day long. I can't help myself. I get to preaching. I will preach all day long, people. It's in my blood. It's in my DNA. I can't help myself. And I'm not preaching to preach to the air. I'm preaching to spread indigenous truth. You feel me? And there's a lot of brothers on YouTube, a lot of brothers on podcasts that are doing the same thing that I'm doing. So let me give it out to some of those brothers. Much love to brothers like Autonomous One. Much love to brothers like Dane Calloway. Much love to brothers like Medicine Man. Much love, you feel me, to brothers like Doc Holliday and all the brothers out there. Algonquin, brother Algonquin. Let me give it up. Two Feathers and his son. Much love, one love to brothers who are out there, who are giving it up, who are rising up. You feel me? Because they're wising up. You feel me? And so we're tribing up. You feel me? That is time for us to do. It's time for us to wake the hell up. You heard the intro to my podcast. If anybody's listening to the Spreaker podcast, Malcolm X was talking about there's going to be a time when the so-called black man wake up and realize that what happens to one happens to all. That is indigenous. That is Aboriginal. There's going to come a time, and that time is coming right now. That time is happening right now. There's going to come a time, what happens to one, we will all feel it, and we all will react to it. That's what the white devil is afraid of. That's why they make sure they hold on to their guns. That's why they are always constantly ready to do something and threatening to start a race riot. Because these white devils know what goes around comes around, and when in the cycle of life, the energy that you give out, you get right back. They know this. So let's get down into the meat of the information that I'm talking about today, people. I got some information I want to share. I got some podcasts. I got some audio casts I want to play as well. But before I get into the audio cast, let me go over some of the information that I went over last week. Last week, I talked about how one of the first evidence that proves that young gangs, that so-called black and brown gangs, like the Crips and the Bloods, and why I'm talking about specifically the Crips and the Bloods, because that's where I come from. I'm from Los Angeles. I grew up in L.A. I grew up the majority of my life in Sacramento, California, but I was born and raised up until the age of 12 years old in Los Angeles and South Central L.A. Grew up in the projects, Jordan projects. And I grew up watching gangs evolve around me. I grew up in the Crip neighborhood. So I grew up watching this thing evolve and take place in my community. And the first evidence of showing that young gangs are nothing but the great mother, the great warriors, our indigenous warriors crying out through the DNA of our young people is when you look at how the fact that these gangs have taken the place of the family. The Aboriginal warrior not only knew that his job and his life was to die for his community, to die for his tribe, to die for his land, but the warriors themselves, aside from the community, the indigenous warriors saw the warriors as a family, aside from the community. And the reason why is because once the warrior was in warrior mode, he was not in community mode. Community mode was not the same as warrior mode. So when the warriors got together, that was a whole different mindset, whole different way of thinking, and a whole different way of behaving, interacting with one another. So let me talk about some of that. I have a book I want to read. My queen brought me this wonderful Indian encyclopedia that I want to read from. The encyclopedia is called North American Indians. Okay, the Encyclopedia of North American Indians. Okay, what I'm reading from is written by a man named Robert Allen from Sanford University. Okay, and it's on the indigenous warrior. Okay, the part of the book that I'm reading is called Warriors and Warfare. So let me read this right quick. Let me bring down my theme music, my Tupac music. Okay, so let me read it. Start it off like, I'm going to start this part. I'm going to read this right quick, so follow me. All right, it reads like this. It says, Warfare in Aboriginal North America. It starts off exactly like that. Listen again. The book starts off, this part of the book that talks about indigenous warfare starts off by saying, warfare in Aboriginal North America was not necessarily a political act. Did you hear that? Warfare in Aboriginal North America was not necessarily a political act. Native Americans certainly developed their own unique form of combat. In some cases, elevated warfare to ritualistic contests of great spiritual significance. But they did not develop warfare in its most destructive and sanguinary potential. Sanguinary. The word sanguinary, Sanguinary, which means bloody. Again, he's saying that even though indigenous warriors had their own form of warfare, he said they never evolved warfare to a destructive form of blood warfare. It was never like that here in North America. Let me continue again. Okay, he says, in some cases, elevated warfare to ritualistic contests of great spiritual significance, but they did not develop warfare to its most destructive bloodthirsty, that's what sanguinary means, potential. In general, tribes raided or engaged in pitched battle to obtain material goods, to take revenge on traditional enemies, for the killing of relatives, seize captives, or vent aggression. Although few groups like the Aztecs, the League of the Haudenosaunee, or Iroquois were able to assemble large numbers of warriors into very real armies, territorial conquest, and instances of mass slaughter on the scale of those habitually carried out by the Assyrians, the Greeks, Romans, Huns, Ottomans, and the Spanish did not occur in Aboriginal America. In other words, indigenous people never slaughtered one another. They did not go around mass murdering one another. Indigenous tribes did not do that here in North America. I'm reading this from an Indian encyclopedia titled North American Indians. You feel me? Okay, so I'm gonna tell you something I want to read that's really important in this book. Let me scroll down right quick. I got something I really want to share from this book that I think is really important. The fact that a lot of these young men, all young teenagers are not the same. You got some young teenagers that take pride in strength. They love to be physical. They love to fight. They love to play football, baseball. They love anything that's physical. They love anything that's hands-on. And that was no different than it was in the past. It was no different. You had indigenous Indian warriors that were the same way. Young warriors that wanted to be physical. They wanted to fight, not necessarily kill, but they wanted to fight somebody. It was a part of their nature to be physical. You feel me? As a young man. Let me check this out. Continuing on in the North American Indian book, the encyclopedia that I'm reading from, okay? On page 667, it says, the spiritual dimension in Native American warfare cannot be overlooked. Most tribes believed in a rigid distinction between the activities of war and those of peace. Consequently, ceremonies were devised to aid individuals and entire communities into making the transition from peace to war and back again. Warriors were ritually prepared for war and offered protective medicine to assure their safe return to the community. Listen here, I'm going to read that again. The spiritual dimension in Native American warfare cannot be overlooked. Most tribes believed in a rigid distinction between the activities of war and those of peace. Consequently, ceremonies were devised to aid individuals and certain communities to make the transition from peace to war and back again. Warriors were ritually prepared for war and offered protective medicine to assure their safe return to the community. In addition to preparation rituals, many tribes used purification ceremonies to restore individual warriors as well as the rest of the community to a peaceful state. Unless the returning warrior were purged of trauma of battle, it was felt they might perpetuate unacceptable patterns of behavior within the community. Did you hear me, people? It was a practice that for a warrior to be a warrior, they had to go through a ceremonial ritual practice to transition them as a warrior. When they came back into the community, they had to be cleansed and purged of that warrior mentality, of that battle behavior. They had to purge themselves from that so that they could enter the community as a peaceful tribal member. So that's one thing I want to point out. Again, proving the point that that explains the fact that when you got young brothers who are gang members who do a lot of violent lifestyle, they live a lifestyle of violence, and it affects them mentally. It affects them. It affects their behavior. It affects the way they think, and it affects the way they behave. They're constantly in war mode, constantly in battle mode. This is proof that our people knew that what soldiers are dealing with today, PTS, post-traumatic syndrome, that it was understood by our ancient ancestors that you have to cleanse a person of these type of behaviors spiritually and socially and psychologically. And this is the reason why they had a transition and a ceremony that would transition you into war, and then you had to be purged and cleansed when you came back from war. Now, let me talk about the young brothers, how young brothers and the mentality that a lot of our young men have, that aggressive mentality of wanting to be physical. Check this out. Aboriginal North American warfare was also seen as an outlet for youthful male aggression. Did you hear that? Let me read it again. Aboriginal North American warfare was also seen as an outlet for youthful male aggression. In this sense, it resembled an elaborate game in which young males gained status within their group under a strict set of guidelines. The practice of counting coups. Go look that up, people. Counting coups. Go look it up. The practice of counting coups, or blows, among tribes of the Great Plains supports the idea in many ways. Coups was a game where war honor that emphasized bravery, cunning, and stealth over the actual killing of an enemy. Basically, people, indigenous warriors would go out and have what they call not real war, but it was like fake war games. Nobody was allowed to kill. That's what counting coups is. They were allowed to hit each other, but nobody was allowed to kill. Let me read it again. The practice of counting coups among the tribes of the Great Plains supporters. This idea in many ways. Coups was a war game or a war honor that emphasized bravery, cunning, stealth over the actual killing of an enemy. According to some tribal elders, the best coup was touching an enemy in the heat of battle and thus leaving him alive to wallow in shame and self-reproach. In effect, the warrior had captured the enemy's spirit. Other tribes possessed the same idea but were less formal in recognizing war honors. So basically all tribes did this, but they had their own way of honoring their people. You've been honoring their warrior in this type of game. This was a game the game was called Counting Coups. Counting Coups was indigenous tribes coming together to reenact war, but they didn't kill each other. They fought without killing. And the way you will win the game is shaming your enemy by beating them, by being faster, by hitting harder. All right? You were not, and now also I want you to know the elders were the ones that basically refereed these games. The elders refereed these games. Man, let me go a little bit further. Okay. Dang, I didn't record it all in here. Okay. Let me read a little bit more. Okay, I'm going down. This is done right here, so let me go a bit further. All righty then, people. So I'm going to encourage my people. We must study. We must research. We must read. You feel me? Again, I'll never forget back when I used to be a Pan-Africanist, okay? I used to be put into Pan-Africanist a long time ago. I was blind and ignorant just like a lot of people. Not researching my own family, not researching my own history. So basically going along with the agenda. So I was blind to the truth. But I'll never forget when I got an email. I got an anonymous email, and I didn't know who it came from. But basically the email said, if you want to hide something from a nigger, that's what it said. It said a nigger, put it in a book. Basically making fun of the fact that most so-called black people don't research. They don't research. They're stuck right there in the cycle or circle of whatever they are attached to, regardless of his religion, education, and they go no further than the parameters of whatever that education is. They go no further than whatever the parameters of that religion that they're stuck in. They won't go outside the box. So I encourage you to go outside the box, to research. It's the only way you're going to know the truth. And definitely research your own family tree and listen to your elders. Listen to your grandparents and your great-grandparents and your great-aunts and your great-uncles. Listen to what they have to say, what was told to them by their elders. And that's what we got to do, people. So on that note, I have I have an audio cast I want to play. And this audio cast I want to play speaks to the fact that the Native American, those on the reservation today, who are separating themselves from us, not standing up and speaking the truth. House niggas on the reservation. House sellout $5 Indians on the reservation who are hiding, lying, manipulating, playing the same game and promoting and propagating the same lie that was told to them and passing it on. It's going to take them standing up. The Lakota. I'm speaking the name Lakota because there's a lot of so-called Lakota who know the truth. There's a lot of Lakota that look just like me. Some that don't, some that look mixed, some of the $5 Indians. You feel me? It's time for the young Indians, the young Native Americans on the reservation to stand up, speak the truth, that we are one people. I'm not talking about being one with the white devil. I'm talking about being one with your Aboriginal brother, the copper-colored Indian, me, my people, those in the concrete jungle. The reservation Indian must stand up for truth. Because while they're calling themselves being separate from us, while they're saying that they're not us and we're not them, well, somebody explain to me why Bloods and Crips, why Vice Lords, why MF13, Mexican Mafia, Vadio Diamonds, they're on the reservation now. Let me. It's on the reservation, people. You got reservation gangbangers going on now. Reservation gangbanging. And I got some audio casts I want to play to that. But you know what? Before I play the audio cast, let me just go on down and read some of this information proving my point that, if you're so separate from us, why are you young men gangbanging? Huh? Why are the young men on the reservation calling themselves Bloods and calling themselves Crips? Let me read this. I'm reading this right here. It's called Street Gangs Gain Foothold on Native American Reservation. And this is from the Griot. Okay, this is from the Griot. You can pull it up yourself. You can find it yourself. Let me read this right quick. It says, during the time of the year, school children are often taught the story of the first Thanksgiving, when the Pilgrims met the Indians upon coming to North America. Much like the first Thanksgiving, which is all a lie, the true story of the current struggle of Native Americans has remained largely untold and misunderstood. Native Americans live in some of the most extreme cases of rural poverty in the world, and in recent years have encountered many of the same issues plaguing some of the country's largest urban centers. A prime example of such is the Badlands of South Dakota, which is the home of the Pine Ridge Reservation and the Oglala Lakota tribe. Pine Ridge, once home of Chief Crazy Horse, as well as 1890 massacre of the Wounded Knee, is experiencing poverty on levels unusually seen only in third world nations. Over 90% of the residents live below the poverty line. The unemployment rate is estimated to be 85 to 90%, and life expectancy is 48 years for men and 52 for women. Wow. Did you hear that? They sound like, to me, they live in the same life as brothers and sisters in the ghetto, to me. They sound like, to me, people in the hood. Okay, let me go on. Pine Ridge has also become the home of another growing problem facing many Indian reservations: gang violence. According to the FBI, Native American gang members has sharply risen in the last decade, with many notorious street gangs making their presence felt on reservations across the country. Some of these gangs originated in the prison system. With the high amount of poverty on many reservations, they have become a hotbed for illegal drug and gun trafficking. In some states, the native gangs are also working in conjunction with Mexican drug cartels, including infamous Los Zetas cartel of eastern and central Mexico. According to 2009 Wall Street Journal report, Washington State tribal police seized more than 233,000 marijuana plants, and in 2008, nearly 10 times the amount found in 2006. These criminal organizations are growing in Indian country at an alarming rate, said Carmen Smith, the police chief of the Warm Spring Indian Reservation in Oregon. On our reservation, we're sent directly from Mexico. The gangs would infiltrate reservations, often paying tribal members, most of whom are perpetually unemployed, otherwise thousands of dollars a month to tend to the crops of marijuana. Okay, so that's just one, but you know, that's just one story. Okay, I got another one right here that I want to read. Okay, let me pull this one up right quick. Let me play this audio cast. I got an audio cast I want to play right quick before I find this other article I want to read. But before I read this article, let me play this right quick. Okay, and I shall return.
Out here for all of us, though, man. Real.
On the remote Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, these teenage descendants of Sioux warriors now band together, not against their tribe's old enemy, the U.S. Army, but against each other.
It's war. It's war out here in these streets, man, for real. Everybody fighting everybody. Everybody has a gun. Everybody wants to get a gun just because that guy has a gun. You know what I'm saying? And he has a gun, he might shoot me, so I might as well have some heat to protect myself so I can fire back.
Put you under arrest. Gangs are nothing new on this reservation, which lies in one of the poorest counties in the U.S. But the 24 tribal policemen who struggle to keep the peace here say the gangs are getting more active and more violent.
Compared to last year, we have close to 1,000 more calls for service. The gang-related incidences have increased almost twice.
Authorities say most of the male inmates in the local jail are gang members, despite their denials. But on building walls, the gangs leave their calling cards for all to see.
It's an isolated, lonely road.
Eric Bringswhite, who spent 22 years in a local gang, says the motivation to join has not changed.
You have acceptance, camaraderie. If you ain't in a gang, or what else do you have really here in this community? You know, there's no resources here, there's no jobs.
But Pine Ridge never seems to run short of one poisonous commodity. Alcohol is strictly forbidden on reservations, drinking punishable by jail time. And yet every afternoon you can see Native men and women cross from the reservation over to the state of Nebraska to buy beer and liquor and drink plenty of it.
Everybody, I could say about 85% of this Pine Ridge smoke bud or they're drinking, you know what I'm saying? Or else there's people's parents that are drinking it. So it's just pretty much just one big infected city, I put it like that. There you go.
Some also believe alcoholic mothers here have bequeathed their children mental impairments that make their prospects even worse.
You don't have good judgment skills, you don't have good reasoning skills, you're easily influenced, you're impulsive, and you don't retain information. So you don't have a chance from the very beginning.
With the reservation offering them so little hope, some gang members seek salvation by joining the U.S. military.
Plan on going to the Marines after high school.
Why do you want to go to the Marines?
Because I have a lot of opportunities if I go to the Marines. A lot of my family went to the Marines too.
But others place their faith in reconnecting to the Sioux Nation's heritage and religion.
Our ancestral beliefs, our culture is powerful and beautiful. And the reason why I say it's powerful is because it's what got our ancestors through some of the worst times in history.
I keep that culture inside too, man. That's me. That's always going to be me. That's from me from the start, from my roots.
Back to the native roots of a people whose survival skills are tested every day on the reservation. Tom Ackerman, Al Jazeera, in South Dakota.
I am back. back here. This is JC, a.k.a. Black. You know, I'm a little, doing a live podcast, also doing the radio broadcast, you feel me? And I got a little caught up speaking to my YouTube listeners, you feel me? But I'm here and I am back. This is JC, a.k.a. Black, dropping nothing but the raw because you heard what's going on. You heard what's going on the Indian reservation. The Lakota are dealing with this. You got the Sioux are dealing with this. The gangs is growing. You got, and I'm not talking about just this thing is growing, and at the same time, the Native American on the reservation is trying to figure it out. And the way they're handling it, they handle it the way white people handling it. They believe in that they need more police. That's the white people's cure to whatever's going on with so-called black and brown people. Bring in more law enforcement. And that's why I say these reservations are being controlled by white devils. It's not controlled by indigenous Aborigines. These reservations are not being governed, not being led by indigenous Aborigines, not true Aborigines. They're being governed by white devils, mulattoes, $5 Indian half-breeds. Not even half. They're not even half. Some of them are half-breeds. Some of them not even half-breeds. The reason why I say some of them not even half-breeds, because you got some of them who say, well, I'm half Indian and half white. No, you're not. You know damn well you're a quarter Indian, if that, 15% Indian. You know damn well you're about 80, 60%, 90% European white devil. You think like a white devil, talk like a white devil, act like a white devil because you're a white devil. You don't know if you're coming or going. Couldn't squeeze an Indian nickel out your ass. You feel me? Why am I saying it like that? Because they handle things like white people. Indigenous people don't handle things like white people. These white devils been trying to get us to act like them ever since they came over here. Now you may say, what does this have to do with gang violence? Because you cannot deal with the young warrior. You cannot deal with the concrete warrior the way you deal with white people. You cannot deal with the concrete warrior with violence. Violence only reaps more violence. I read to you earlier, people, that our people, even when they would have what's called pitched war games, meaning that they were literal war games, they did this to get out the aggression of the young warrior. But they still was governed and refereed by the elders because they were not allowed to kill or to literally hurt one another. They were allowed to hit. And they were allowed to, it was about how fast you moved and how hard you hit and if you can knock your opponent down, but it was still a way for our young people to get out their aggression. This is the way our indigenous ancestors dealt with that youth aggression. Well, today, the way the white men deal with youth aggression, they put them on football, they put them in wrestling, they let them box, put them on boxing teams and things like that. That's the way they deal with aggression today with our young people. They put them in sports. But see, our people had sports as well. You feel me? We had our own gangs and that we played and all types of things. Our indigenous people had our own way of dealing with things, the way we dealt with things in our own families, our own tribe, and our own communities. The thing about it is that most people today don't want to be indigenous, don't want to be connected to their indigenous culture because they're ashamed of who they are, or they've been lied to the point that they embrace the lie. They embrace the lie, people. A lot of our so-called black and brown brothers and sisters, and I'm not talking about Mexicans, okay? I'm specifically talking about so-called black Americans, so-called African Americans, the artificial construct that they've embraced. You got too many house Negroes in America. And I'm going to tell you, these house Negroes are willing to even hurt their own people to hold on to that white devil's agenda. Basically, people, we really need to clean house to bring culture back to the community. If we brought culture back to the community, the young gangster, the gangbanger, would have a way to direct that aggression. Now he would not be leaderless. Now he would not be, with walking around in the community with that gangbanging mentality, perpetuating activity and criminal activity on the community. It wouldn't be happening. He'd be protecting the community from the white devil and white devils. And that's what we need to come back to, people. Bottom line, raw and uncut, just like that. You feel me? That's what we need to come back to. And so on that note, as I was saying, I got an article I want to read right here, which I think is really important, talking about culture. And this article is called the American Aboriginal Code of Conduct. I want to read this right quick. It's called the American Aboriginal Code of Conduct. Let me read this right quick. Check it out. It goes like this. Now, I want you to know this goes, let me see, it goes from 1 to 12, okay? Starts off, now, check it out. It says, each morning upon rising and each evening before sleeping, give thanks for life within you and for all life, for the good things the Great Spirit Mother has given you, and for the opportunities to grow a little more each day. Consider your thoughts and actions of the past day and seek for the courage and strength to be a better person. Seek for the things that will benefit others and everyone. 2. Respect. Respect means to feel or show honor or esteem for someone or something, to consider the well-being or to treat someone or something with the difference of courtesy. Showing respect is the basic law of life. Treat every person from the tiniest child to the oldest elder with respect at all times. Special respect should be given to elders, parents, teachers, and community leaders. No person should be made to feel put down by you, avoiding hurting other hearts as you would avoid deadly poison. Touch nothing that belongs to someone else, especially sacred objects, without permission or an understanding between you. Respect the privacy of every person. Never intrude on a person's quiet moment or personal space. Let me scroll down, please, son. Okay. Respect the privacy of every person. Never intrude on a person's quiet time or moment of or a person's space. Never walk between people that are conversing. Never interrupt people who are conversing. Speak in a soft voice, especially when you are in the presence of elders, strangers, or others whom special respect is due. Do not speak unless invited to do so at gatherings where elders are present, except to ask what is expected of you should you be in doubt. Never speak of others in a negative way, whether they are present or not. Treat the earth, listen to this, treat the earth in all her aspects as your mother. Show deep respect for the mineral world, the plant world, the animal world. Do nothing to pollute our mother. Rise up with wisdom to defend her. Show deep respect for the beliefs and religions of others. Woo! Do you hear this, people? This all falls under respect. Listen with courtesy to what others say, even if you feel that what they are saying is worthless. Listen with your heart. Respect the wisdom, respect the wisdom of the people in council. Once you've given an idea to a council meeting, it no longer belongs to you. It belongs to the people. Did you hear that? It's beautiful. Respect demands that you listen intensely to the ideas of others in council, and that you do not insist that your idea prevail. Indeed, you should freely support the idea of others if they are true and good, even if those ideas are quite different from the ones you have contributed. The clash of ideas brings forth the spark of truth. Once a council has decided something in unity, respect demands that no one speaks secretly against what has been decided. If the council has made an error, that error will become apparent to everyone in its own time. Now, 3. That's all about respect under 2. 3. Once a council has decided something in unity, respect demands. Okay. 4. That's 3. 3. Be truthful at all times and under all conditions. 4. Always treat your guests with honor and consideration. Give of your best food, your best blankets, the best part of your house, and your best service to your guests. Woo! 6. The hurt of one is the hurt of all. The honor of one is the honor of all. Woo! 7. Receive strangers and outsiders with a loving heart and as members of the human family. 8. All the races and tribes in the world are like the different colored flowers of one meadow. All are beautiful. As children of the Great Spirit Mother, they must all be respected. 9. To serve others, to be of some use to family, community, nation, and the world is one of the main purposes of which human beings have been created. Do not fill yourself with your own affairs and forget your most important talks. True happiness comes only to those who dedicate their lives to the service of others. 10. Observe moderation and balance in all things. 11. Know those things that lead to your well-being and those things that lead to your destruction. And 12. Listen to and follow the guidance given to your heart. Expect guidance to come in many forms, in prayer, in dreams, in times of quiet solitude, and in the words and deeds of wise elders and friends. There you go, people. These are the 12 attributes or the 12 principles of the Aboriginal Code of Conduct. I just read it to you. The 12 codes of conduct of Aboriginal behavior. This was universal. These codes of conduct were universal amongst tribes here in North America. And this is what we need to come back to the community, come back into our families. What I just read to you is what need to come back into the families and the communities. But you know what's destroying, in my conscious opinion, what's destroying that? Religion, not just gang violence, not just criminal activity, not just drugs and violence and domestic violence, not just alcohol and self-abuse, and no, also religion is what destroying the fabric of culture in our communities to the degree that we can't even respect one another. We can't respect one another if I don't believe that I'm a Pan-Africanist. An ignorant house Negro got a problem with me. Do I got a problem with him? No. If you want to be an African, because if you're African, I got nothing but love and respect for you. Nothing but love and respect for you if you're African. If you're not an African and you're indigenous and you're coding on to being African just because you don't want to be indigenous, because you choose to do that, which you can do, it's hard to respect somebody who leaves and traitors their own country and family. But you know what? If that's what you want to do, I respect that. If that's what you want to do, if you want to be a Pan-Africanist, even though you're not, you can do what you want to do. The thing about it, we need to learn to love and respect one another. Just like this code of conduct just said, we need to learn to love and respect one another. So those who are Pan-African, you need to learn to respect those who are indigenous and Aboriginal. Us who are Aboriginal, we will respect you as long as you respect us. So there you go, people. Code of conduct right there. I just read it to you. I just read you the code of conduct. I'm finna get off the air. I'm finna get off YouTube, that is, though. I got another audio cast I want to play before I get off the air, because I want you guys to hear in reference to what I'm talking about. We got to bring culture back. The one way to bring guidance back to the community, the one way to bring the young warrior, the gangster warrior who's a lost warrior without leaders, who's a lost warrior without guidance, is to bring culture back into the community for these young brothers to know who they are. There's a lot of them who don't know who they are. They don't care about who they are, because the only thing they care about is what the system taught them to care about. The only thing they care about is what the system cares about. And what is that? What do the system care about, people? Money. Everybody in America is a dollar sign to the system. Why you think they hold everybody in this country responsible for the national debt? They hold everybody in this country who pay taxes in this country, who works in this country, who lives in this country, regardless if you paying taxes or not. If you got a social security number, they hold you responsible for the national debt. Debt the white devil has created. Debt the white devil is still creating. Debt the military is creating. Debt they're creating by lending money out to other countries and making other countries in debt to America. These white devils are doing this, people. Every congressman is a white devil. Because they're not doing what it takes to make things great, to make things better for everyone. They're doing it for themselves and for the elite. Raw and uncut. So, I got an audio cast I'm going to play. So, I'm finna get off of YouTube right now. I'm still live on YouTube right now. I'm finna end my session on YouTube. I'm finna continue my session on Spreaker before I get off the air. But I will be doing this live YouTube cast every Sunday. And I'll be doing it for most of my session. But my session is over as far as, because, from 3 to 4. My podcast is from 3 to 4. And so I'm going to end my session right now on YouTube. You can catch me here on YouTube every Sunday from 3 to 4, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut, people. You feel me? And so I'll be doing this live session on YouTube. And so if you have any questions, if you want to listen in, join me right now. I will continue the last part of my podcast on my Spreaker. You feel me? You can listen in on Spreaker. You can also chime in at Spreaker. You can also chime in. It won't cost you a dime, just a bit of your conscious time. You can call in or chime in and join me here at 857-232-0155. Again, that phone number is toll free, doesn't cost you a dime, just a bit of your conscious time. You can chime in at 857-232-0155. And the conference key to get through the conference door and sit with me at the conscious table of two, truth, is 947595. That conference code again is 947595. So I'm going to end my live session on YouTube right now, and I will continue a little bit more and play this last audio cast before I get off the air, people. Much love, and may the great mother bring us together. For those who are watching me on YouTube, I will return next week. Peace. Okay. Now, for my people who are still listening to me here on Spreaker, I got this last little audio cast I want to play right quick. Let me play this audio cast, and I shall return.
Since 1994, over 10,000 people have lost their lives to gang violence in Los Angeles alone. Bloods and Crips, two of the most well-known street gangs, have menaced the streets of LA with drugs, guns, and murder for over 25 years, despite their positive pro-black origins. It was 1965, just after the Watts riots, when the gangs of today began to take shape. Early black groups like the Slawsons, Gladiators, and the Businessmen all claimed parts of LA, but violence against one another was almost unheard of and was usually personal in nature. By this time, the popularity in the Black Panther Party began to grow, and many of the local groups and clubs put their rivalries to an end and joined together to form the US organization and a Los Angeles chapter of the Black Panther Party. These groups led the way to a social conscious, pro-black agenda for the black community. In the late 60s, all of the unity among blacks will come to an end as COINTELPRO infiltrated the Panther Party on a national level. They also used the same tactics of deception to destroy the newfound unity and pride of the black race throughout Los Angeles. After numerous incidents with the US organization, the Black Panther Party would lose its leader, Alprentice Bunchy Carter, in a shootout on the campus of UCLA. Some say it was over jealousy, and others say control. But as a result, dissension grew as blacks began to separate once again. After a lack of strong role models in political leadership, black teens looked to themselves and started their own organizations. One of the first being started by a young Fremont High School student named Raymond Washington. His group, the Baby Avenues, would become one of the first Crip gangs in Los Angeles. The gang would try to emulate the Panthers in appearance by wearing black leather jackets and sunglasses, but lacked the discipline and leadership of the Panthers. By this time, the number of Crip gangs was rapidly growing, as well as the Brims, who eventually became the first blood gang. These numbers would soon reach epidemic proportions, as the county reported in 1980 there were over 30,000 active gang members and over 355 gang-related murders for the year. During the 80s, gangs and gang violence steadily increased, along with an influx of cocaine and automatic weapons. It is rumored on the street that the CIA infiltrated the Bloods and Crips in the same manner as they did the Panthers and introduced them to a new form of rock cocaine called crack. With the introduction of crack, street gangs began to capitalize on the drug trade, and the territories began to multiply. Gangs whose neighborhoods had railroad tracks began to find open, abandoned rail cars with crates of automatic weapons. Uzis, MAC-10s, and AK-47s flooded the streets, and soon after, the infamous drive-by will come to life. How ironic that nearly 20 years after the fall of the Black Panther Party, an organization deeply rooted with the pro-black social conscience that provided meals to the children of the community and gave young black males positive role models and a sense of pride. Would we see the same generation of children from the Panthers era grow to start their own organization slated with a mission of murder, mayhem, and money, blindly manipulated by the same tactics as the Panthers and other pro-black organizations before them, but bent more toward a divide and conquer mentality? This mentality has to date been responsible for over 15,000 murders and the recruitment of over 175,000 gang members in Los Angeles County and an estimated 650,000 nationwide. Despite these facts, young African American males and females are still joining gangs at an alarming rate of nearly 10 to 20 per day. Why? Why do we join gangs? Why do we as young men and women gangbang?
There you go, people. You heard it. You heard it. You just got the rundown proving the fact that it was like a domino effect. It was like a domino effect. Every time our people tried to repair themselves, the white devil came around and did his best to make sure we were never repaired. Huh? You heard him talk about COINTELPRO and the destruction of attacking the Black Panther Party for the purpose because the Black Panther Party was doing its job to protect the community and educate the people and feed the children and basically protect our people. You feel me? And that originally the Crips were created for the same purpose. They were modeling themselves after the Black Panther Party, but due to what? No leader. Huh? No leader. Leaderless people. So the question is, we see how we got to where we is. We see how gangs, by what you've just heard, you see how gangs got to where they are. The question is, what is the cure? What is the answer? Well, I'll answer that for you. The cure and the answer is culture. We must embrace our culture. Africa is not our country. Africa is not our home. And Africa is not our culture. Our culture is indigenous Aboriginal culture. What is Aboriginal culture? What is indigenous culture? Well, people, I will leave that up to you to research your own family, research your own people, research your own tribe, and you will find your culture. You'll find your identity. Because if you don't know who you are, the system will tell you what it wants you to be. If you don't know who you are, the white devil will tell you what he wants you to be. You got so many people that will use the term the system, but they won't define what the system is. The system is basically European ideology, European agenda. And what was the Europeans' agenda for indigenous people in America when they colonized here? To assimilate us, to assimilate my ancestors. What is assimilation? basically to rid you of your culture, to rid you of your history, to rid you of your traditions, to rid you of your identity, and then for them to relabel you with an artificial construct. That's what assimilation is, people. That's what that is what cultural genocide is, people. And the white man has not ended that agenda. He has not ended that mission. He has not ended what he's doing. He's continuing that agenda under the guise of the American dream. So it's time for us to wake up, people. And the people to lead that way must be the people who it started with, because the African did not lose his culture. While Africans run around here hollering Pan-Africanism in America, Africa has their culture, has their identity. They even got their country. They're just sharing it with the white man, that's all. Sharing their country with the white man. They've been doing it for thousands of years. Sharing their bed with the white man. Sharing their politics with the white man. Sharing their country with the white man. Being a slave and a pet and a porch monkey for the white man. So it's time for us over here who are indigenous to wake up. And we got to start with reclaiming our identity, reclaiming our culture, reclaiming our history, and reclaiming our country. You can't reclaim your country as your country if you don't even know who you are. So I'm going to end this podcast on that note, people. I'm already 10 minutes over my time limit. My podcast is from 3 to 4 every Indigenous Sunday, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut here on the Black Village. You feel me? And this is JC, a.k.a. for Black. I got somebody calling me while I'm on the air, and I cannot do that right now. I don't know why they're calling me. So I will be back next Indigenous Sunday, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut. You feel me? I would encourage all my people, again, research your history, people. Research your history. Talk to your grandmother. If your grandmother is not here, talk to your great aunties, your great aunts, your great uncles. You feel me? Talk to the elders in your family. Find out who you are. Research indigenous slavery in this country, which goes back further than 1612 or 1626. It goes back further than the 1600. And it did not start with the English-speaking white man. Research your history, people. Stop embracing an artificial identity, an artificial construct that is not real. You feel me? So I'm going to end this podcast. I will be back next Indigenous Sunday, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut. You feel me? I hope everybody who listened in learned something. But you can always call in. You can always ask a question. As long as the question that you want to ask is truthful, honest, and educative, you can always chime in. It doesn't cost you a dime, just a bit of your conscious time. You can chime in at 857-232-0155. Again, that is 857-232-0155. And the conference key to get through the conference door is 947595. Again, it is 947595. On that note, though, folks, I gotta go. I will be back. I will be indigenous if it's the great mother's will, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut as I always do. That's all I can do, people. You feel me? Drop the raw and uncut. You feel me? And much love to all my indigenous brothers and sisters out there who support me, who listen to me. I'm also promoting some shirts to help fund this broadcast. So please, if you drop by the Black Village on Google, the Black Village on Facebook. And when I say Black Village, no space. BlackVillage. The Black Village. Black Village, no space. Okay? So look for me on the Black Village, and please click on my link and buy a $25 shirt. I got shirts that I'm selling for the support of my podcast and for the support of what I do. to help support getting material, research, equipment, and bettering my broadcast and making it more professional. So, go to Facebook. You can see my link. I'm doing my shirts with Custom Ink. So go check me out on Custom Ink. And the shirts are called Ab for Life, American Aboriginal for Life. And purchase a shirt, $25 shirt with a nice logo with the Mound Builders logo, which is the Great Horned Serpent on the back, Black Village on the front, and American Aboriginal for Life on the back or right above the logo. You feel me? $25. Pick your size from small to medium to large to extra to 4X. You feel me? To help support what I do, keep the Black Village on the air live every Indigenous Sunday, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut. You feel me? And so I will be back, and I will be indigenously, aboriginally back, dropping nothing but the raw and uncut. I gotta go. So on that note, peep, much love, much peace. I gotta go.
I got 100 guns and 100 clips, nigga. I'm in New York, with 100 bloods and 100 crips. Whenever I'm in New York. I got 100 guns and 100 clips, nigga. I'm in New York, ride with 100 bloods and 100 crips. Whenever I'm in New York. New Aftermath chain on, that's the bling. Stones yellow and black, he a Latin king. Mírame, King Tone, El Jefe, Simone. Translation, I get money off ringtones. King blood, even though I used to sling drugs. When I see Snoopy, tell me, keep doing your thing, cuz. I do it cause I love it, do it for the niggas that don't know the difference between Chuck Taylors and Chuckers. I'm a gangster, tell Remy Martin I wanna fuck her. That's what I call a championship game at the Rucker. Y'all want beat, change the subject. Y'all ain't got no stars like the flag of the Dominican Republic. After Angie's show, I was finna get the bus and catch a cab to Houston and ask any nigga hustling. I ain't have to live in New York all my life to know the A&D train go to Washington Heights. I got 100 guns and 100 clips, nigga. I'm in New York, with 100 bloods and 100 crips. Whenever I'm in New York. I got 100 guns and 100 clips, nigga. I'm in New York, ride with 100 bloods and 100 crips. Whenever I'm in New York. Left the VMA Awards, went back to the hood. Streets is talking, game got slapped by Suge. False, I was face to face with him. Media wanna criticize the game like he had Mace with him. He a hood nigga that ain't never try to snake niggas. Walk through the 5 boroughs, never had Jake with him. Bake it how you want, ain't no cupcake in him. Even Diddy know I make the city glow. Never had an album, never had his own video. Now I was selling crack while Ja was watching 50 blow. White t-shirt, Converse in my Dickies on. Signed with Dre, recorded 150 songs. Now the fucking hip-hop police hating, trying to run me out of New York like Anthony Mason. Nigga, I come and erase you. Only nigga from California that'll come from the tongue with a race. I got 100 guns and 100 clips, nigga. I'm in New York, with 100 bloods and 100 crips. Whenever I'm in New York. I got 100 guns and 100 clips, nigga. I'm in New York, ride with 100 bloods and 100 crips. Whenever I'm in New York.